This is why I love musicals. This show right here demonstrates that exact reason. Hello once again, watchers of good TV shows. My name is Nick Pell, and this is once again coming from my white room. Now, over the last 2 weeks, I've been watching the show Smash on Amazon Prime, and so I'm going to talk about the series as a whole. So, if you have not finished the show Smash, it had 2 seasons, and it was on NBC, got canceled after 2 seasons, and so we have our show. I'll be starting from the beginning, going up to the finale, so you won't have direct spoilers right away if you have watched some of it, but just know that I will be talking about the show in general with spoilers included at some point. Now, the main star of the show is Katherine McPhee, who plays Karen Cartwright. Karen is a girl who comes to New York. She is a waitress and she wants eagerly to get into Broadway. That is her dream. She is a fantastic singer and she's very talented. One day, she ends up getting an audition for the role of Marilyn Monroe, which is the musical that the show primarily focuses on. It eventually becomes known as Bombshell, and we have our show. And very quickly she comes into direct competition with Megan Hilty's character, Ivy Lynn. Ivy is someone who's been in the ensemble for many musical productions, I think about 7 or 8, for a number of years. And so this is her big break, and she eagerly wants the part as well. And so these two end up really butting heads a lot of time in this show. And it's really interesting to see their relationship change as the show goes on over the course of the 2 seasons, because they start out as enemies. They hate each other for the most part. Ivy is essentially made out to be the villain of this show from the get-go because she's very uptight, she's very full of herself, and she very much wants her way. She thinks that she is the only person that deserves this role, and when Katherine threatens that as a newbie Broadway star, she sees that as competition and she does not want to deal with that. So I really like that they did add some personality and humanity to her character. We get to see kind of where she's coming from in this regard, and I really did enjoy seeing Ivy change as a character and eventually see these 2 girls become friends by the end of the show. Jack Davenport easily steals this show, in my opinion, with Derek Wills. This is probably my favorite character of the show, mainly because he is a director who knows what he wants and he knows how to get it. He is an asshole a lot of the time. He sleeps with his main actresses and he is yelling at people during rehearsals, but he knows how to get things done and he knows how to do it. And we also get to kind of see where he's coming from a lot of time. Not as much as Ivy, but we do get to see where Derek is coming from. And he becomes something of a cool character or relatable character, and someone who eventually is not really seen in a very scary light. He has his issues, which are more dealt with in season 2 than season 1, but eventually you come to love him, and he is probably my favorite character in the show, just because of his personality and just maybe because he's British too. Deborah Messing and Christian Borle play Julia and Tom. They're writing partners and they write musicals together and shows and all this type of stuff. And Julia does the lyrics and the story, and Tom does the music behind it. And they are a team. We are introduced to them very quickly, and they are throughout the whole show. It's really interesting to see how their relationship is tested as the show goes on as well. Angelica Huston is Eileen, and she is the producer of Bombshell, and she is also an interesting character. We get to see a little bit of her, where we are introduced to her backstory very quickly into the show, with her going through a divorce and then seeing that she wants to basically show everyone that it's not just her husband who can do great musicals. She can produce something of very cool stature on her own, and so that's mainly what she deals with for much of the first season and then on to the second one. And then lastly, of these main characters, we have Jeremy Jordan. Jeremy Jordan is someone who I only really knew about and was the only reason I really started watching the show, because I recently started realizing who Laura Osnes is, and then through that I discovered Bonnie and Clyde, and then through that I discovered Jeremy Jordan. And he is a very good actor. He is obviously a Broadway star. He plays Jimmy Collins. He is a great music writer, but he's got a very dark past. He has been involved in drugs, and that past comes back to haunt him a lot of times in the second season, where we are introduced to him. And he becomes more or less the love interest for Karen in that season. And he's a very interesting character who we get to see develop over the course of the second season. So with that out of the way, the music of this show is probably my favorite part of the show because I just really enjoy musicals, and it really does feel like a musical show because they have about 2 or 3 production numbers in every episode, and they are really well choreographed. And half the time in season 1, we will see Karen or Ivy singing a song from Bombshell, and then it will kind of transition back and forth between them singing in the practice studio and then also them singing on stage. So throughout the whole course of the show, we never really know who is going to end up with the part of Marilyn Monroe until the very end of the episode of season 1. So that's kind of a cool thing that the show does, and it's something that I really, really enjoy. Some of the music numbers which have really, really stuck with me from the show are 1001 Nights and then both versions of Don't Forget Me. Both of these versions are really, really cool, and they really form both of these characters and are really inspired, I think at least, by Karen and Ivy's characters as a whole, just in terms of how the scene is displayed and just how it is performed on the show. If it had not been for the great music in this show, I probably honestly would have stopped watching from the get-go, because the story is never really terribly gripping. It's all kind of basic. We've seen it all before. We have a lot of scandal that happens in season 1. There's a lot of cheating on other people, which is a thing. There's a lot of Derek sleeping with actresses type of thing, primarily Ivy. And we have a lot of Ellis. Ellis is probably the most annoying character on the show, or on a show, that I have seen in a very long time. Every time that he did something, he was doing it for his own manipulative gains, and he just, I don't know what it was about him, but he annoyed the hell out of me. And so when season 2 came along, and he was nowhere to be seen except for a very, very small cameo, I was very, very happy. But yeah, that was the main thing which kind of dragged down season 1 for me, was Ellis, and just the overall immense amount of drama that that season contained. It just kind of got annoying after a while, and I just want to see the production of Bombshell and see how they're going to make it into a successful musical on Broadway. And the show does that, but it has a lot of extra stuff in the middle, which kind of fills up time. All the acting in the show is really, really good. All the actors do a really nice job. A lot of them are Broadway stars, which I wasn't aware of until I looked at it recently. And so that's pretty cool. Just people that know how to sing are in the show, which really, really helps. It's not just Katherine McPhee rocking the whole thing. We have a lot of other actors and actresses singing things. People who don't have main roles in the show come out and they do musical numbers, and it's really, really neat to see. So, on to season 2. We have Karen as more or less a well-known name now in the Broadway world because of Bombshell. They did a successful Boston tour, and so she was Marilyn Monroe during that tour. At the end of season 1, it did kind of seem like Ivy was going to kill herself, which would have been a little symbolic because that's how Marilyn took her life. Something I forgot to mention is that the show really let me know a lot about Marilyn Monroe. I don't know how much of it is accurate. I'm assuming a fair amount of it is. But I honestly had very, very little knowledge about Marilyn Monroe before watching the show, and now I know a decent amount about her, at least I like to think I do, and just who she was as a person and the way that people treated her and thought of her. And I just found that bit of it, just as a historian, to be really, really interesting. So season 2 really focuses on a new musical called Hit List. This is the musical that Jimmy Collins has written with his friend Kyle. It gets discovered by Karen, who pitches it to Derek, and bang, 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 boom, a few episodes later, we have it being made into a musical, which ends up being in competition with Bombshell. And so that is a very interesting premise. I'm not going to go into everything that happened in season 2. It was more or less a good season. Again, it had a little too much drama for me, and it also kind of felt like it was missing something that the first season had. It didn't feel like the same type of show. Maybe it's because these characters are going in different directions and they're not all working together anymore. And there's not really a huge amount of competition between a lot of the characters like there was with Ivy and Karen. But overall, I really did enjoy it. I thought that the ending to the show really tied up things very, very nicely. I would have loved to see more of the show. So if they ever, for some reason, bring it back, I would love to watch it again. But the show did tie it up very nicely. We have both shows winning numerous Tony Awards, and it just tied things up really, really well. I was happy with it, and that is my thoughts on Smash. I watched it over the course of 2 weeks. I watched season 2 in 3 days, so that tells you how into it I was. So that's my thoughts on Smash. If you have seen the whole show or even part of the show, let me know what you thought of it down in the comments down below. Did you like it as much as I did? Did you despise it more than I did? Let me know. Like, favorite, comment, and subscribe if you so choose. I'd appreciate it immensely. And as always, my good people, my name is Nick Pell. And once again, keep on watching.